Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for coming in again. This is the second video of the series so far. And today's book that we will be discussing is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. This is the second book in the series. And right here I have my notebook. I wrote down just notes about the book just so I wouldn't miss anything important that happened. So, in this book, we have our main characters, which is Percy, Annabeth, Chiron. We also have Grover, Tyson, who's a new character we meet in this one. Dionysus is in it, and then Clarice we get to see more of in this one. And so, the beginning of the book, it starts off with Percy having dreams. And he's having dreams about Grover, and he has an empathy leak. So he's getting messages from Grover. And Grover, at this point, he's not at Camp Half-Blood. Instead, he is going to look for Pan. And that's what a lot of satyrs have done, but none have ever achieved their goal. And Annabeth, he's back at another school, Percy, and because he got kicked out of the last one. And Annabeth arrives, though, at school, and she saves him from monster dodgeball. And she reveals to him later that Tyson is Percy's brother. He is his actually half-brother. And Tyson is a Cyclops. So they eventually end up at Camp Half-Blood again, and they notice when they get there that there's just monsters that are attacking. Their defenses are down. In Camp Half-Blood there's a protected dome around it in a way, and Talia's tree, which has been protecting that, is dying. And Talia is a character that you first hear in the second book, but she is a character you'll see in the other books. When she was about 11 and Luke was 12, also Annabeth was with them, but she was 7 years old at the time. Grover, anyways, he rescued all of them and took them back to Camp Half-Blood, but there was a Cyclops attacking them. So what they had to do, Talia tried to defend, but she eventually got struck down, and she was turned into a tree by her father Zeus in an act of mercy. And so she's been that tree for 6 years now, but the tree's dying, and so the power in a way is dying. And there is just a lot of mayhem going on. There's two bulls in Camp Half-Blood that Percy, they're all trying to fight, but Tyson's actually the one who defeats the bull. And they're trying to find out what to do, but they realize that they need to go find the Golden Fleece. And the Golden Fleece is this protective item, so it can heal anything. So if you got shot or if you're sick, it could just heal you completely. And they want to use that to bring it back and heal Talia's tree in a way. And the Oracle, I didn't mention in the last video, but the Oracle is basically someone who tells prophecies. In the Oracle of Delphi, she's not really a person. I mean, she is, but she's more of a mummified corpse in a way. And she lives at the top of the big house. And the big house is usually where there's important meetings that go on. That's where Chiron and Dionysus usually hang out. They're the ones who are in charge of everything. Chiron's he is the centaur, and he's the one who does help with a lot of the things in Camp Half-Blood. And Dionysus is the guy in charge. He is the god of wine, and he was stuck there for 100 years because of more of a disagreement, because he got in trouble with Zeus, and so Zeus is punishing him for 100 years. But he's been there 50 years now. And so, anyways, going back to the Oracle. The Oracle, she never really comes out, though. She does, though, at this point where she goes out and she sees Clarice, and she basically tells Clarice to come talk with her. And Clarice is given the quest to go find the Golden Fleece. And Percy was actually really considering going on that quest. So he, in a way, didn't really give up on that, but he just didn't think he was gonna go. But Hermes showed up at camp when Percy was just like sitting aside of the camp, and he told him that he was worried about his son and that he needed to go after the Golden Fleece. And Hermes gave him a backpack with vitamins, a can of air. So basically, if they were on water and there was no fuel or anything to start the boat, then they could use it and it could make them go forward. So they eventually land on the Princess Andromeda and they see Luke. And Luke, what he's trying to do is he's trying to recruit other demigods to join in his force. And in that, it means he wants to bring back Kronos. And Kronos, for those of you who know Greek mythology, those of you who don't, he was the father of the 3 main gods, but also other ones. And Zeus actually had to tear apart his father in a way, because he first of all swallowed all his siblings because his father warned him that one of his children would kill him, and so he thought he could escape that by just swallowing all of his children. And anyways, Luke wants to get revenge on the gods, especially his father, which he is really angry about. But they eventually get captured by Luke, but they're rescued by actually Clarice and her Confederate soldiers. Clarice I talked about in the first video. She is the one that I mentioned was sort of a bully in the first one. She's the daughter of Ares. She was the one who was given the quest. And the dead Confederate soldiers, if you're wondering how she got those, well, her father Ares, he has basically all the ships, all the weapons you could need, and so he has probably many armies dedicated to serving him. And so they're taking her, but things happen, monsters attack the ship, and they sail towards the Lair of Circe. And in the Lair of Circe, it's at first when they land, it's just a beautiful spot, but things don't always seem what they seem. So Annabeth's getting all pampered and everything, but Percy's turned into a guinea pig, and they eventually do escape and land toward the island of Sirens. And sirens usually make the sounds that they'll try to bait you into coming closer. But so Annabeth told Percy to tie her up so that she wouldn't go, and then Percy clogged his ears. But eventually Annabeth actually tried to go towards the island and everything, but Percy stopped her. And eventually they made it to where they're supposed to go, to the island of Cyclops and Polyphemus. And they find Grover and the Fleece. And for those of you who don't know, Cyclops and satyrs are terrified of Cyclops because Cyclops will eat satyrs. And so that means Tyson and Grover don't get along until later when they become friends. Tyson, he isn't regular Cyclops. I mean, how he is. He's one of the most lovable characters in the books. He will hug you even if he doesn't really know you, but he is just a lovable person. But they find Tyson and Clarice are there, and so they're able to trick the Cyclops and escape with the Fleece. But Percy, knowing that it was Clarice's quest to begin with, he gives her the Fleece and tells her to go home and give it back. And so she does that, she goes on a plane, but then tragedy happens again. Luke actually captures them all, Annabeth, Grover, and Tyson. But before that happens, Percy sends an Iris message. And an Iris message is you need water, usually a fountain, and a drachma. And a drachma is a coin that is in Greece, basically. And you would use it, it is basically currency, but it's very valuable, especially to Iris, who's the goddess of rainbows, but you learn more about her in the other books. So he lets them know that Luke was the one who poisoned Talia's tree. But then Chiron and his pony, his party pony, his friends come and rescue them. And they return to camp, and they put the fleece on Talia, and Talia is able to come back to life, actually. She turns back into the human she was. And she is 15 at the time, so she actually grew within the tree. Because if you remember, she was about 11 when she was turned in. And so that is pretty much the overview of the book.